what does it mean to be a female in hip hop? As women that we have when we get involved in hip hop is that we take on a larger assignment than just ourselves, right? So to be a woman in hip hop could mean that you practice one of the art forms. You could break, you could rap, you could write graffiti, you could DJ, you could MC, whatever. But regardless of those things that you do, like what you practice, you actually also take on a larger role as far as the culture and your community. So hip hop basically demands more of us than just our participation in the art forms. It demands us to stand up for justice. It demands us to show each other kindness and love. It demands us to further our communities and utilize hip hop as a way to further them. So those are all things that I think being a woman in hip hop sort of color our experience, whereas I could see some men, even though we could be a minority in hip hop as far as numbers, I think that we take a larger role. We take more space because we tend to do more with it. And again, coming from it even could be like, a lot of the women in hip hop I know are educators, they're college professors, they're activists, they've taken these skills and they've actually gone beyond that and taken a really more proactive role in their community, right? So could be in the education field, could be in the workplace, what have you. I'll say this: most of the crews back then didn't have women in their crew, and if they did, they had one, right? So being that one woman in a crew, you were naturally competing for a spot, just like on the front line, right, of the crew or in a performance or what have you. And usually in general, whether it was within hip hop culture, like at events or what have you, battles, or if it was like in industry stuff, they really didn't want to see a lot of women in the front. It would be like maybe one or two, and the rest would be men. I mean, I think that's still pretty typical today. And I think that is something that we really have to look at, because again, it's like, what is it about women on the front line makes people uncomfortable or something when it comes to hip hop or breaking? So I think that was challenging, because I'll say for me personally, being in Rocksteady crew, it was very, to get a spot, like to actually be able to perform or battle or be in the front, be visible. They'd only choose one, maybe two girls maximum, right, out of a whole crew of dudes or in a performance, what have you. So that was challenging, because that kind of made me have to go against the other girls in the crew, right? Rather than develop like this camaraderie with them, I was actually kind of like in opposition with them. And we felt in opposition with each other, because it was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? We're all competing for this one little spot in the front or in the spot, to perform or what have you. So I could say that experience is challenging. And then I would say in general, it's kind of like this. Nowadays people feel like they're more checking a box. Like they're like, oh, we got to have a woman as a judge, right? We need a woman. And even though there's something good about that, it still can be, it can be frustrating. Like men usually are the deciding voice when it comes to everything hip hop, right? And even if we just kind of like just keep this to a breaking conversation, it's pretty much like a boys' club of men making the determinations of things, deciding how things are going to go for the culture, for the scene, at events. And because men are naturally so ego-driven and so driven to not work together, we have a very fractured scene. We've never had a scene that's actually connected. We've had a very fractured scene because men are so competitive naturally. And then when you add that to like breaking, that's super competitive. So it's like, I'll give you the example, like when it came to like UDEF or something like that. And they, I remember that they had reached out to me and they wanted to, get my understanding about community organizing and nonprofit work and education in the community. And like, how does this work? How does this actually reflect in our communities, this type of work? But when it came, then they were like, well, we're not really going to have her involved because, she's not really important or relevant enough to have as part of the shaping of this organization, or you know what I mean?
Now,
To get a call like that, and really, I mean, they, in a nutshell, they said, well, the things you focus on aren't strictly battles. And since this is more of a strictly battle forum, we didn't think you would really be, interested or right for this. Right. And in the sense of, I was like, okay, well, first of all, why did you even say, well, how are you going to have a nonprofit, but you don't have any like community development, or you don't have any like education, or you don't have any. So you're saying this whole thing is just this tour, and you're going to kind of like front like it's this other thing. But in order for it to be that, now and then you'll just have a couple dudes give some free breaking classes now and then. You know what I mean? And that'll check the box for that. So it was more of like, let's not take into effect anything this person has contributed as far as like breaking. Because I'll be honest, most people of my generation know that if it wasn't for the summit and some of the work that I've been a part of, who knows what breaking would actually be right now? Who knows if it actually be in the position it is? And that was because of the work that we put in at a certain time to make it relevant again, to give it exposure, and to, provide a worldwide forum for it. And that was with the summit and the stuff we were doing with the panels and the performances and the battles and all of that, making an entire, like a full on menu of what hip hop is and what this breaking stuff is too. So, to just be like totally discredited in terms of like, we're not going to worry about any of that. And now, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. To me, that feels like being discriminated against, because if it wasn't the case, I think like men in general would be like, wow, we really should involve her or get her, get her somehow within this mix because of the work she's done all this time and continues to do. So to me, I consider that discrimination. I really do.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you weren't given an opportunity, even though you fit all of the criteria. You have this amazing resume, but because you're not a man, they didn't give you the opportunity. All they wanted to do was check a box and say that a female is involved. What can we do as men in hip hop to make women feel safer, either physically, emotionally, mentally? How can we do that as men in our community?
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's great that you care enough to ask such an important question like that. Well, it can start first off by leaving some of these behaviors like at the door. Just having like a visible, it could be a sign, or it could be some kind of agreement people understand when they walk through the door that, hey, this space is safe and here's how it's safe. We don't tolerate any type of harassment here, or any type of intimidation or domination in this type of space. I think sometimes people don't really realize like what it's like when a woman walks in and she's only one of a few women there, and then the attention she's getting is not really because she's breaking, but because she's a woman, right? And it's like, really, when we step into these spaces, we honestly just want to be treated like everybody else. It's not that we want special treatment, it's that we just want to be there and not have to feel like we have to watch our back, or that some dude is like eyeing us, or that this old school head is like giving us way too much attention. And then we don't know how to deal with that because we don't want to disrespect them. But then we feel like it's kind of inappropriate. You know what I mean? We're always put in those type of situations all the time. And, as an older woman, sometimes like I know how to deal with it. But for younger women, it could be like, I honestly, it could be overwhelming to the point it's like, man, I don't even think I want to deal with this. Like, I'm just, because the whole thing about hip hop that we always were preaching everybody is, hey, here's something that you can come and do that nobody can judge you based on your race, your gender, your creed, how you identify, anything. Nobody's supposed to trip out at that at all. All they're supposed to care about is that you come in and you add your part and you're representing, right? Hip hop is about representing. So if somebody's representing, we let them represent, because that's what hip hop is about. And it doesn't matter what kind of clothes they're wearing. It doesn't matter if we think, oh, well, their clothes are too tight or too baggy, or, you know, they don't got enough makeup on. They got too much makeup on. They got a weave. They got no hair. They got, like, nobody's caring about that. Right. So, and I also think that, you know, men throughout time have come in and pushed the limits when it comes to stuff like that. Right. With like freak show or circus runaways. And it's all right. People have just been like, all right, well, that was kind of weird, but they kept showing up and representing. So, you know, everybody was like cool with it because they were cool with it. So it's kind of like the same. I think that women, we need to be able to just feel like we could come in and just be ourselves, and that's enough. Right. And I'll give you a couple examples, like, you know, Beta, you know, especially in that early 2000 period, you know, she was always getting picked apart, man. She's showing up with their crew. She's repping hard. She's battling. She's doing all kind of stuff. She's super good. She's doing what she's doing, but everybody's got to pick her apart. Why is her hair blue? She's kind of heavy now. You know, what? So is she gay? Is she not gay? You know what I'm saying? Instead of just being like, yo, she's breaking. What do you mean? Like, nobody's worried about that. So I think that, you know, I just don't want to see other women have to go through that. And I think we are in a different age. I think it's a lot easier to be a woman, however you want to identify, as far as like your sexuality or whatever, without, you know, it's easier. It may not be easier now. I'm sorry. It may not be easy now, but it's easier than it was before. That's what I'll say.
So what would you say is our first step as men to make women feel safer? What is the first step?
I mean, it comes down to like dropping the machismo attitude, dropping just, you know, like if your sister was going to come to break, right? If your auntie, your niece, whatever, if your family was coming to break, that's how it should be. You feel me? It's a familiar thing. It's a family thing. You know, it's not like, oh, now here's this new chick. Oh man, I got to get her number before these other dudes do. Oh, I got to start training her before they do. Oh, I got to recruit her. You know what I mean? Just let her live, let her feel, you know, the desire and all those wonderful feelings that you got from breaking. Let her develop that in her way, how she's going to do it. And remember the things you went through with breaking, and don't do that to her. You know, I think it'd be great if women could learn from more women. I mean, hopefully there's a woman around there that's, you know, adequate enough to show some of that. I think we're going to start seeing the first era of Bgirls coming up that are actually taught by women. And I think that could be really, really empowering. I don't think it's like, nah, you can't teach her because she's a girl. It's not like that. But I think that, you know, I'll be honest, man, like it was always challenging learning things from dudes, because our minds, just kind of sometimes how we think about things can be different. How we approach stuff is very different. I mean it, like I really do. And even like things that seem so natural for a man are not as natural for a woman, and vice versa. You know what I mean? So I think that those are things that men like will never really understand because they can't. And you know, so I do think it's important to give people some guidance. I don't think it's just like, all right, come up in here. Like if you see somebody clearly doing a bunch of stuff wrong, it would probably be great if you could approach them and be like, hey man, I've been seeing you here. My name's so-and-so, I just want to let you know, like, I'm down to help you. If you want my help, no strings attached. Like if you just want a little help with something, and you know what, if I'm showing you stuff and it's like, it's not like suiting you, so be it. Because I've had those situations super awkward because dude's like, all right, yeah, now just do it like this. And I'm just looking at them like, dude, I don't really understand what we're talking about. Like, and after a while, after like weeks and weeks of that, you're kind of like, this just isn't the right person for me to learn from, right? No disrespect to them. I just don't understand how they're breaking the stuff down. It's not digesting in me. So, but again, yeah, I think it's great to point them, to point them to some women they can learn from, or, call some women that that do this and say, hey man, it'd be great. We got a couple B-girls or, women coming up in these spaces now, maybe you should come through and help them out,
Yeah, that brings me to my next question, which you kind of answered some of it. What are some ways you empower women in the community?
When it comes to battles and things like that, I always, more than not, I guess I should say, like, I really always, like, when I'm coordinating events, I naturally want to do something for B-girls. I want more visibility for them. I want more opportunities. And I think that, when, we've done so much different things, like from just organizing just, battles just for B-girls, or forums just for B-girls, email list just for B-girls. I think the goal is to get us united as B-girls, in order to have a voice, to have a way we can share information and spread information is really important. So I try to do a lot of things like that. Sometimes, they don't go as well as you want them to, but like I remember we started a whole, like, an email group, like it was kind of like a Yahoo group when people were doing Yahoo groups. And it was cool because we put out like a monthly question and answer kind of thing, or people could ask questions. And the goal was really to, also if B-girls were traveling, to find other B-girls in those locations they were going to for safety reasons, or to just connect, or to have somebody to stay with, practice with, hang out. So I think that's always been a desire of mine, to really connect our national and international B-girl scene more. And then, to make sure that there's opportunities for women to enter battles, to represent, you know what I'm saying? To feel confident enough to get out there, or just to have these events where we cater, we have platforms specifically for women, panels, performances, what have you. I've been a part of a group called Queens of Hip Hop for some time. And that event, well, it's a group of women from Colorado that work in that community and teach. I had a class for a while out there called Bgirlism, which is cool. And it was just all like the nuances of what this idea of being a B-girl is about, right? So it was primarily focused on breaking, but it really reflected in other areas too. And Queens of Hip Hop, we do an annual event. And it's just an entire, I think it's really was one of the only ones. Maybe there's been some other ones since then, but in the past 10 years, it's been kind of the main event for women to go to break, to battle. There's a really large B-girl competition there. We have like all types of female MCs. It's all female DJs, graffiti artists. So when you go in a spot like that and you're just like surrounded with like dope women, it's super empowering and exciting. It is like, I'll put money up to go to something like that, because that's like, man, it feels really good. It's like, you feel like you're around your kin or something, right? And you can just breathe. And yet you're still like feeling like that same hip hop, like aggressive battle attitude, but it's in a way where it's like, you don't feel like you have these set of eyes on you all the time, like how women do, how we feel like in male spaces. We always feel like we have this extra pair of eyes that are low key judging us, critiquing us, breaking us down. You know what I mean? It feels different. It's like, and I think that's why women are hesitant to get involved with breaking. I truly do, because I just feel like I know what it feels like to be out there in the middle of the circle and just, feel like you got all these eyes on you and they're just like staring at your butt, looking at your boobs. And you know what I mean? It's like while they're watching you break, it's all this other stuff going on. And it can be really like for somebody young or somebody who's just like, doesn't, you know, that sort of has a high frequency to that, or maybe some sensitivity to that, it's honestly too much. It takes a lot. It takes a courageous person, in my opinion, for to be a woman in hip hop, for sure. And to be a woman breaking. It takes courage. It takes this other type of feeling and attitude. I don't think it's for everybody, but I would like to make it available to everybody, every woman out there, right?